I'd first like to thank all of you for taking time to join us for our webinar series. Refugee offers monthly topics on critical issues that help B2B sales execs, managers, and sales reps be at the top of their game. All of our topics focus on sales planning and execution. We're scheduled to run an hour. We'll try and get you out of here in 45 minutes since it is tax day and there may be somebody who has to run to the post office. Today is the third webinar in our account planning series. And today we'll start with a few slides, as we always do, on why account planning, and then we'll drill down into our topic, customer collaboration. So let's get started. The reason why we invest in account planning programs is to either sustain or grow revenue. So first we're going to run through a couple of statistics about account planning that you may or may not have seen, all of which support our need for greater customer collaboration. The first statistic we like to use is the Pareto rule, the idea that the top 20% of our customers generate 80% of our revenue. So how much would it help if we really understood and collaborated with that top 20% of our customers? The second statistic is from the Strategic Account Management Association, and it looks at revenue from strategic accounts that historically has grown at least 30% more than other accounts. The third is about companies that have a number of vendors and are trying to reduce the number of strategic vendors that they have. And the last statistic we want to put up is really effectivity in selling to existing customers. And studies show that most companies only meet expectations 40% of the time and exceed less than 10% of the time. To me, that says that half of the 80% or 40% of the revenue falls into the needs improvement or don't know category. Not very comforting when you realize that those key accounts are the key to your future success. So this leads us into why the need for customer collaboration and why customer collaboration matters more now than ever before. Well, the first thing we'd like to point to is that the buyers drive the process, and the process is constantly getting more complicated. And the fact that the buyer is driving means that each time you're dealing with a different account, you could have a different process. Now, in addition to that, you're expected to understand the buyer's challenges, and you're expected to provide creative solutions so that you can get their attention. And in a world that's becoming increasingly competitive, it's important that you have a solid relationship with each of your key accounts. To do this, collaboration is one of the key things you must accomplish. So who cares about customer collaboration? Well, in a recent IBM CEO survey, they looked at the impact of collaboration on today's business and today's performers. As you can see, it's significantly greater in the top performers. They also looked at companies' plans to collaborate more with their key customers. Today, about 46%. And in 3 to 5 years, CEOs want that to grow to 90%. And there's a reason for that. If you think about it, if it's true, and it is with almost every company we work with, if you've collaborated with those 20% of the customers and created high-quality collaborative plans, you've documented where 80% of your revenue comes from. And sales knows what it has to do to bring in 80% of your revenue. But it goes beyond that. Imagine the value this information can have throughout your organization. If you know 80% of what you're going to sell, then you have valuable information for finance to look at their forecast planning, for marketing to look at how they're going to market to the customers to generate that 80% of your revenue. And currently, if you look at account-based marketing, marketing will know exactly what you're supposed to market to and what you're expecting to get out of those key customers. It's also valuable information for your product groups, product management, looking at what new products they're going to bring to market, and even down to supply chain and manufacturing and distribution. So the value of collaborating with your key accounts, the value of building out collaborative account plans and roadmaps really extends throughout your organization because you can identify up to 80% of your revenue, and that's valuable input for planning throughout the company. So when we focus on collaboration, In our first webinar, we talked about what separates the great from the rest. And our VP of Strategy, Tim Brayman, started off talking about customer collaboration and highlighted one of the key best practice elements, understanding the customer's goals and how they measure success. In our follow-on webinar in March, Jennifer Earle, our SVP of Sales and Services, did a webinar entitled 5 Steps to Ensure You're Executing Your Account Plans. And again, in that webinar, there was a lot of comments about and highlight on customer collaboration. And one of the main pitfalls being companies are internally focused and not focused on the customer's goals and objectives. So this brings us down to our topic for today, customer collaboration. And as we go through the next set of slides, I'll be using visuals to get my point across. I tend to think in pictures, more in pictures than in words, which is a trait I share with most account managers and sales individuals. So what's the end game? We all want to have a strong relationship with our key accounts and strive to have partnerships. And ultimately, what we want is to have a multi-year roadmap. We want to know how we're going to work together with our customer to help drive their success, drive their goals and objectives. But how do we actually get there? How do we get to the point where we've got this multi-year roadmap and we're actively collaborating and executing on the roadmap? Well, we earn our way there. We get there by starting with collaborating to better understand their goals and initiatives. And we get there based on a strategy built from aligning our products and services to their business needs. Right? If we understand our customers' goals and objectives, then we can intelligently talk to them about how our products and services will solve their business needs. And to earn the right to have those collaborative conversations, we had to do a bit of research first so that we can intelligently start a dialogue with them. And of course, as we talked about in our first webinar, it all starts with a plan. So let's run through this from start to finish and talk about some of the best practices for collaborating with our customer. So one of the things we've talked about in each of our webinars is the idea of having a roadmap or an account planning process. But what's important here is that it starts with a collaborative-centric roadmap. And we've highlighted areas where customer collaboration should be involved. Each step of the process should have collaborative activities within it. And we know this because we know 60% of high-performing account managers have a plan that involves collaborating with the customer. So we start with a plan that's customer-centric and collaboration-centric. And then the next thing we look at is doing our research. You have to be prepared in order to have a conversation with the customer. As we all know, we don't get a lot of opportunities to have executive conversations. So when we have that opportunity, we have to be compelling and we have to be prepared. I recently reviewed a new piece of technology that claims that they'll help you connect with customers and prospects. And it does that by giving you information. It tells you the person's date of birth, what school they went to, any awards that they recently received. All great information, but they already know that. And they have close friends that remind them of that. If you want to collaborate with somebody, if you really want to make an impact, you have to go further than just the personal information. You have to have a compelling idea to put in front of them and one that aligns to their business. And the only way you're going to understand that is to research ahead of collaborating with your customer. This, by the way, is often where failure begins, where people don't do their homework and they go into conversations unprepared and they can't put any compelling information in front of an executive to start and earn the right to have a collaborative conversation with them. So we start by doing the research into the financial history of the company, your share of wallet, and where the company is. The second thing we do from a best practice perspective is we look at what the existing relationships are that we have. And we also look at the strength of those relationships. Once we've mapped out the relationships, then we can begin collaborating. So where do we start? We start collaborating by looking at the people that we currently understand and talking to them about what are their business goals, what are they trying to accomplish, and what are some of the initiatives that they're using to accomplish those business goals. And as we talk to them, we may explore more goals and more strategies that they have and more initiatives that we could potentially align with. Also, as we're starting to collaborate, we want to look at other people within the organization that we should be talking to. Who else should we interact with? Who else do we need to know that is involved in those business goals and objectives that they're trying to address? Oftentimes, we find with our customers that once you do the discovery, once you map out who's involved, you find out that there are more people involved than you expected, multiple groups that get involved in a particular decision. Often it's a very eye-opening thing. We've even had situations working with clients where a group within a large organization we're working with a group explaining to them who the individuals are within their organization in other divisions that are a part of this initiative or goal. So it's a valuable exercise to understand not only what their business goals are, but who's responsible for the goals and what their goals and objectives are personally. So if we continue down this path, we've met some operational people, we got introduced to some of the sales team. As we talk to the folks on the sales side, we understand additional goals and strategies and initiatives that relate to that particular team. And by the end of our set of meetings, we have a pretty good idea from our research and from our discovery of what the company's trying to accomplish this year. Goals that are set by the executive team, strategies that are set by the senior management team, initiatives that the line managers have to achieve those strategies, and then additionally what initiatives are funded and not funded as a part of their annual plan so that you have an idea of where you may have an impact within their business. Also, by the end of this section, you should understand all the various relationships, the people that you need to know in order to understand and interact with them on their goals and objectives, and potentially the level of relationship you have with each of those individuals. So at this point, we've done a lot of research. We've had a round of collaborative conversations with our customer. What do we do with that information? Well, we're going to develop a strategy, and the first thing we want to do with that is we want to look at and evaluate where our products and services can assist the customer in achieving their goals. So most of us have a way of looking at what products our customers have bought from us. And what we really want to look at is what products they've bought from us, what products they bought from competitors, and where there might be white space. And then we want to align that white space to their strategic goals and objectives. If the white space aligns to their strategic goals and objectives, then that is something that we should be looking at for a collaborative roadmap of how we're going to help them drive their business. So it's important that we're able to speak intelligently with them about how our products and services are going to help them drive their business and align that information for them. Now, once we've been able to do that, then we want to put a plan in place. And we all have revenue goals for our key accounts. But we should consider customer success goals and focus on a relationship goal in addition to that. How are we going to make the customer successful, and how are we going to continue to expand relationships at each level of the management team? And it takes multiple relationships from people within your organization in order to accomplish this. Once we've developed our success plan, then we're going to go back and have another round of collaborative conversations with our customer. So here's where we look at building our collaborative multi-year roadmap. Here's where we identify who will own each initiative, how we'll work with them, what we'll validate with each customer, validate with our customer coach, our approach, and then be ready to execute and start driving success with our client. Now, we found within our customers that those who build collaborative roadmaps and collaborate with customers are far more successful, and it really aligns to the analytics that we showed in the beginning, where you can be 30% more successful with your key accounts when you're collaborating with them. So the final step is execution. And it's important that we align our execution with the customer and have regular reviews with them on the execution. In our second webinar, we talked about quarterly business reviews and best practices in how to drive the quarterly business reviews with our customer. In reality, according to the Strategic Account Management Association, only 11% of account plans are effectively executed. That's an awful lot of work and collaboration that's not being used. And based on the statistics we looked at earlier, there's such a great benefit to running these programs that it makes perfect sense that we should execute on them. And if we go to the pains of building a collaborative multi-year roadmap, that is something that we should be focusing on and driving to success. So how did we get here? We got here through a methodical approach to working with our customers. We had a plan, we did our homework, we did 2 rounds of collaboration with our customer. We did some discovery, trying to determine their goals and objectives, also trying to look at who within the organization we're working with. Then we developed a strategy on how we felt we could impact their business in a positive way, where our products and services would help drive success to their goals and objectives. And then once we presented that back to them, we worked with them to build a multi-year roadmap. And through the process, we've elevated our relationship and we've earned the right to work very closely with them to help them achieve their goals. So before we wrap up and go to Q&A, we're going to do a brief introduction to Refugee. Refugee's technology helps make planning and execution happen. We pride ourselves on providing intelligent sales playbooks and collaboration tools and focusing on what really matters, which is the day-to-day execution that you need to be effective in driving account plans, executing on opportunities, effectively managing territory, or effectively driving revenue through your partners and channel organization. We serve B2B sales teams, and Refugee is applicable in situations where sales don't just happen. When you have to actually drive, work, strategize, or plan in order for a sale to be complete. So we're going to wrap up and give ourselves some time for Q&A. I thank you for participating. You can review each of these 3 webinars online, and if you'd like additional information, please email Michelle at the email address that's on the screen. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it back over to you to see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Mark. That was a great presentation. You finished a little early, so I'm sure everybody will appreciate getting some time back in their day. We actually do have a couple of questions. One of the questions that we got was, what is the number one mistake people make when building a collaborative plan?
I think the number one mistake I would say is that we don't do enough research and they're not prepared for that initial conversation, because you don't have the luxury of going around that ride more than once, right? You're going to get an audience with a key executive. You've got to have something impactful. You've got to show your value fairly quickly, and it's important that you have an understanding of their business and that you impress upon them in that first conversation and earn your way to working with their organization. Great.
We have another one. It said, what would you say is the most important best practice?
I would say one of the most important things is the collaboration with your customer and actually sharing the information. So when you're documenting their goals and objectives, whether you're doing it in a visual nature like I showed in the webinar, or you're documenting it in a tabular form, what's most important is that you share that with the customer. You show it to them, and you let them work with you on it. We've got a number of examples within our organization and with our customers where we've mapped out a client's business goals and objectives and what some of their challenges are. And it's amazing when you show that to them, because they see it, and especially if they see it in a picture, they tend to get more engaged and they tend to help you change it. So even if you're 50% wrong with what you put together, I've seen numerous cases where they've come in and redrawn the picture for you, so that they have a visual of what they're trying to accomplish and you have a good understanding of their business. So that, I think, is one of the keys to this success. Is most people are nervous about sharing information with their customers, but they shouldn't be, because once they do it for the first time, they'll do it every time because it's an invaluable exercise. And the customers like updating that information and like talking about the business and what their challenges are.
Great. Somebody else asked, in your experience, how many account plans can be well executed by one team?
Well, that will come down to really the size of the customer and the team itself. So, we have clients who have very large strategic accounts where you will have one account plan because it's a large account, and it may cover multiple divisions and have a very large team tied into it. In other cases, we have groups that have more of a national account structure, and they may have 4 or 5 accounts within each. The thing about account planning and collaborating is, it really most important is to right size the tools to the size of the client and what you're trying to accomplish. So I don't have a number for you on that, but it really kind of comes down to right sizing the tools to the client. Some very large key accounts, it may be one account plan you're executing on because it's a very large, very complicated client, and it may be you have a dozen different plans, but they're a simpler form of a plan because you have a number of national accounts you work on.
Okay. This question is more based on Refugee and our solutions. It said, can a small company, one person, use your services?
Our services, the type of products that we look at in planning execution, is more driven towards what you do and now how big you are. Now, of course, there's economies of scale here with larger organizations and implementing solutions, but we really, the value of Refugee is tied into the complexity that you deal with in the sale, and the more complex, the more value that Refugee will deliver to you.
Okay. This question is regarding a CRM platform. It said, in your opinion, what is the best CRM platform? Do your tools integrate with the likes of Salesforce.com?
Yes, in addition to other CRM platforms such as Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle Fusion, and SAP, and we do that because we have a broad number of customers. I won't comment on which I feel is the best. I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses, but we do integrate with each of them.
Very good. I guess the question also says, in your opinion, what is the best CRM platform? Probably you need to dive a little deeper. Best CRM platform for what? Because I think a lot of people use CRM platforms for different things, and account planning should probably not be one of them.
Well, account planning, CRM platforms were never designed to do, forward-looking planning and analysis and strategy. The CRM platforms are very, very good at allowing you to record information about your account and about your deals. But when it comes to visualizations and planning and strategy, they really weren't designed to do that. And having a solution similar to Refugee that can add that capabilities, elevates the value of the CRM platform, so that it's not just a platform for forecasting and a platform that allows governance. It's more of a strategic tool that sales reps can use and account managers can use as they're driving forward.
Very good. Another question, somebody asked, how do you use your plans to prioritize and manage time? It's a hard one.
How do you use your plans to prioritize and manage time? I'm not sure I understand I'd like to get more information about the question, but when in each of the plans, especially in your plans when you're looking at collaborative account planning, you want to schedule your activities and your customers' activities so that everybody is working in collaboration and working in lockstep. And that kind of extends back into when you're putting together your roadmap and your process. You really have to have a collaborative process and a collaborative plan to start. And then within that, when you put together the steps that you're going to take and the actions you're going to take, it needs to be well laid out with your customers and as well as your internal resources, and then each activity having the dates and requirements tied to them.
Okay. And the last question that we have, I think, is very specific to you. What is the difference when calling on a CEO versus a line manager?
Well, if you look at the idea of companies having goals, strategies, and initiatives, typically when you're calling on a CEO in a larger organization, you're going to be dealing with what are the company's goals. Because if you think about it, a CEO and a board of directors will set a goal for the company. And then the senior level executive management team will be responsible for coming up with the strategies to achieve the goals. And then they'll work with their managers and line managers to come up with the initiatives that are going to drive the strategy to help achieve the goal. So if you think about that from a level perspective, your conversation with those people who have the initiatives is going to be a little different than your conversation with the CEO who's looking at what their position is in the market and what they're trying to accomplish this year. So I think the research, you have to do a little deeper research. You really want to understand when you're talking to the CEO more about the market, what their position in the market, their position versus their competition. And it's a slightly different conversation than with the executive team and with the line managers who are going to own the initiatives, where you're talking about how that initiative is going to help achieve a portion of that goal.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions that we have. If anybody has any more questions, then again, you can email me at mvaldez@refugee.com. We will also be sending out a link to the recording of this webinar with the slides and audio included. Feel free to forward that along to anybody, any of your colleagues. We also have all of our past webinars online at refugee.com/webinars. So if you guys are interested in looking at any of those, feel free to come to our website and review any. With that, happy Tax Day.